Hello clever people, and welcome to my review for Power Rangers. So Power Rangers is a film based off of the 90s and 80s TV show, I believe, and also on the comic book, and it basically follows 5 teenagers that find these weird stones in the bottom of a mine. Basically, one of them blew up this giant area of rock, and all 5 of them are around the area when they discover these weird, stones that all glow. And eventually, after contacting them, they start to realize that they're really strong, and they start to realize that they can do certain things that are not usually done by most humans, and that eventually leads them to a place where a robot comes by and a giant face in a wall and explains to them that they are the Power Rangers, and that they need to help stop somebody that is trying to end the world. It's a fairly simple premise considering that it's a 2-hour and 2-minute film, but it's basically just 5 teenagers learning to become Power Rangers for most of the movie. And, you know, Power Rangers, it was not a movie I was looking forward to. I had no interest in it. I have never really seen the original TV show. I have not seen Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. I have not really seen anything Power Rangers related, but all I knew about this movie was that they were trying to make a self-serious version of just a really stupid premise. It was 5 teenagers dressing up in brightly colored costumes and fighting aliens, and honestly that just didn't seem like something that should be turned into a self-serious movie, but they decided to do so, so we got Power Rangers. And what I will say about this film is that though it is very flawed, I actually was surprised by Power Rangers. I found quite a bit of entertainment by it. Will I stand by it and say that it is a good movie? No, I will not. However, I will not say that it is a bad movie either. I will say that it is maybe a guilty pleasure for some, or maybe just a fine time for others. It is an entertaining movie, and really it's nothing more, nothing less. They took a risk with the movie by making 70 or 80% of it basically just the teenagers learning to become Power Rangers, learning about each other, and learning to become themselves. And I thought that could, just hearing that based on a Power Rangers movie, it seems like it could be a big issue, but actually, that was the most entertaining part of the movie. The action, which I'll get to later, was actually a very flawed part of the movie, but the times where they were just talking with each other, getting to know each other, getting to learn each other, that was actually the most entertaining part of the movie. And part of the reason that was so entertaining was because of the dynamic and the acting between the 5 teenagers. All 5 of them all really dedicated to their roles. They were not necessarily easy roles to play for a lot of them. Whoever played Billy, that kid, he had a, rough time ahead of him. He hadn't really acted before, and this was like his first acting thing, and it's a really hard character to play, because you have to try to come off as annoying, but I'm not annoying enough so that you're, irritating people in the audience. And a lot of the other characters are not necessarily really easy characters to play, but the teenagers all did a really good job with them. And I liked how these characters did not have the cliched backstories. A lot of them had different things to them. The character building in this film was actually fairly decent for the most part. They did have an issue with trying to space it out throughout the movie, and in fact, they sort of had just like a 10-minute segment where they were just developing each other when they were sitting around a campfire. But besides that, a lot of them had really interesting backstories that were actually, a few of them, quite daring. It's the type of stuff that you wouldn't see in the TV show when it premiered, but they implemented it into this new incarnation, and it actually worked out fairly well. However, Power Rangers is a very flawed movie. Part of the reason it's so flawed is because of its tone. Many times throughout the movie, it's trying to be this really stylistic and fast-paced and really fun movie, and then like that, it'll become really self-serious. It really messed with the tone of the movie and sort of made it seem that at times the movie was going to go for pure entertainment, that it was going to be this really fun, fast-paced, entertaining ride, and then suddenly it'll become really self-serious with the character having to take care of their dying mother, or something really, really serious like that. And though I was glad that they went with more darker turns toward the characters, I thought that maybe if they blended the tone together a little better, it wouldn't have felt so awkward. And also the movie has a lot of badly written scenes. There are a lot of scenes in the movie that just feel very awkward and overdone. Like you can tell that they were meant for the camera and that they were not like something that teenagers would actually do. Like, there's a scene where Billy, he takes out a person because they try to attack him, so they try to hit him in the head, and then the character falls backwards. And later, he's sitting around with a bunch of the teenagers, and he's, talking like he's all cool. And that was just such an overdone and honestly really stupid moment. Power Rangers is filled throughout with these moments, and it just sort of took me out of the movie that I could be having an entertaining time, and suddenly I'd be hit with this awkward scene that I'm like, oh, that just really didn't land. They also have a random 10-minute chunk in this movie that is purely meant for exposition. It's when the Power Rangers first learn why they're there. It's basically just 20 minutes of, or probably more like 15, of a character talking to other characters about why they were chosen, what they're supposed to do. It seems so forced, and it's like, oh, we didn't really explain to these characters why they're doing this. Let's just write in this scene where this character can explain straight to them exactly why they're there. And it felt very lazy, and a few times the writing can feel very lazy like that. And the film also suffers with music, both the score and the soundtrack. The soundtrack, it's similar to a lot of recent teenage movies that have come out, where they just have random moments of just pop music. And they just have it there for like 15 seconds, and it's there really for no reason but to pander to the crowd. Like, there's this one scene where characters are trying to jump over a giant cliff, and it was a really good scene, but the issue is that they made it so that every time one of them jumped across, they put on this pop song for like 10 seconds, and then it just cut off. And there was no reason for it to be there when you could have implemented score. But also, the score in this movie is way too loud. In many ways, a score should reflect the tone of the movie and should help you feel the feeling that the movie is trying to display. A good score can be in the movie, and you can tell, and you can sort of feel, like, not tell that it's there. You know that it's there, yet at the same time you're so focused on what's going on, and the music fits the story and what's happening so well that you can't really tell that it's there. But in Power Rangers, you can easily tell that the score is there all the time because it's really loud. And finally, the action in this movie is very, very bad. It's just so uninspired. It's so lazy. It's like, it's nothing that we haven't seen in an action movie before. They do nothing too interesting. The action scene is basically the Power Rangers in like these weird jet things going to a city and trying to destroy a giant monster. And we've seen that time and time again on cinema, that seeing it again in this movie, it didn't feel special, and honestly, the action just sort of felt like the most uninteresting part of the movie. And a large part of that is actually the sound editing and the sound mixing in it. The sound during the action scenes is far too quiet. That sounds like a weird complaint, but basically, in an action movie, it should have sound in it that is loud enough so that you can feel the weight of what's going on. When a character gets hit, or when a certain, giant explosion happens, you should feel it through the sound. It should be loud enough to make an impact on you. But in this film, the sound is so quiet and so muddled during the action sequences, and that's part of the reason why they're so uninteresting. But besides that, Power Rangers was actually a pretty good movie. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It surprised me. I was not expecting to like it. I was expecting actually to go in and give it maybe a 4 or 3.5 out of 10. But I actually found quite a bit of entertainment in it, and that is why I will give Power Rangers a 5.5 out of 10. Again, I wouldn't say it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. It's sort of in that middle range, but surprisingly enough, it is more entertaining than most films that you would actually find in that middle range. Alright, that concludes my review for Power Rangers. What are your thoughts on this film? Comment in the comment section below, and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.